Hey, All Stars. My name is Bailey, and I'm here to read another one of my favorite books with you called Curious George Goes Camping. I love camping, I love being outside. So I'm excited to read this book. Have you ever been camping? Yeah? Well, let's see what Curious George gets into on his camping trip. Curious George Goes Camping. George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were going on a camping trip. A ranger greeted them at the entrance of the park. Have a great time, he told them. They drove to a lake. Here's a good spot to set up camp, George, said the man with the yellow hat. That does look like a pretty nice lake, huh? Let's get unpacked, he said to George. I'll go get some water to cook with. You can look around, George, but don't get into trouble. What do you think George is going to do? Do you think he's going to follow the rules, or do you think he may get into some trouble? George went exploring. At one campsite, George saw a man cooking some fish for his family. It smelled good. At another campsite, a girl was pouring water over a campfire. I want to make sure it's completely out, she told George. One spark could start a whole forest fire. She's being safe. George walked on until he saw a small tent. Inside was a thin pole standing right in the middle. Suddenly, George heard footsteps. Someone was coming. He jumped into the tent and knocked over the pole. Who's in there? A man shouted. Come out right now. He was angry. George knocked over his whole tent. George crawled out and ran away. The man ran after him. George climbed to the top of a tall tree. Now he was safe. From the tree, he could see the man in the yellow hat had returning to the campsite with a bucket of water. Then George saw something scary. Smoke coming from the empty campsite. Fire! George had to stop the fire, and he knew just what to do. He climbed down and ran to get the bucket of water from his own campsite. George grabbed the bucket and ran past the other campers. Hey, where's that monkey going? A camper shouted. Daddy, I see smoke, yelled the little girl. The man with the yellow hat came rushing out from his tent. Fire, he yelled. Quick, let's go. Everyone ran after George. George dumped his bucket on the fire. Everyone helped pour water on the fire until it was out. The ranger came to see what happened. So did the man whose tent had fallen down. Good job, George, he said. I'm sorry I was angry at you. You're a real fine scout, said the ranger. Hooray for George, everyone shouted. George and the man with the yellow hat went back to their campsite to have dinner. George, said the man with the yellow hat, you did all right today. So even though George almost got into some trouble by knocking over the man's tent, he still saved everybody with the fire. Well, I love that book. I think that Curious George is so fun, and I love all of his books, and I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.